Alright, we'll go ahead and assemble the drums while we're waiting on the other stuff to show. There's 3 lip seals that are pretty close to this. The smallest one goes on the intermediates. The lip's going to be facing towards you. The mark right there is to line up the slot for the bushing. There's an oil groove in there that's got to line up with. You want to make sure it's not blocked off. And you want to make sure that you set it to the right depth. Alright, the little cutouts right here got to go into there. Okay, we got our little plastic piece here. It doesn't matter where you put these springs, just put them the same. If you're going to put it on this side, put it on that side on all 3. If you're going to put it over here, and put it over there. It doesn't matter. Just keep it consistent. And our plate goes on top. Snap ring, short end of the taper up. Sealing rings are all hook and loop. There's some races that go on the back side, but we'll worry about those later when we put the gear train together, whenever the output shaft shows up. Alright, these hook together just like the others. And we got to wait on our race also. Alright, our direct drum. The lip seal is going to go in with the lip facing up towards you. Check ball in here. Want to make sure that it's nice and free and that it does seal properly. Lip seals are going to face up towards us. Now there's a 4 clutch and a 5 clutch of this. and your apply ring is going to be different depending on what you got. And our apply ring is just going to pop down inside of there, just like so. Our springs are going to go on these little fingers. We want to have them kind of sitting up fairly straight, so when you push this down that they don't go cocking off to the side. You can see they don't fit very well at all. Alright, short end of the taper up. And we're going to have to go over here for this one. Alright, we've got the lip seal facing up towards us again. This has an apply ring just like the other one. Has a check ball down in there also. You want to make sure it's nice and free and is holding the way it's supposed to. Alright, I am going to go press both of these down, and I will be back. Okay, we have two washers that go on the clutch hub. Now, if you're going to check your clutch clearances, you're going to want to leave this hub out. The plastic one goes on the outside, the brass one goes on the inside. And like I said, when you first do this, you're going to want to leave this out so you can check your clearance. Here we have our cushion plate, and we're going to want to keep, there's a little cutout, like the little cutouts right here. We're going to keep all that together. Alright, I don't soak my clutches. If you want to soak your clutches, soak them. The reason you leave this hub out is when you put this pressure plate on here and your snap ring, you can get up inside of there and check your clearance. Then you're going to need to put your hub back in. Alright, for directs, we're going to keep all of these together. And I'm going to put this on just to check my clearance. If your clutch comes up right about to the bottom of that right there, that's about perfect. I like that a lot. Alright, so this is going to come back off. No, my special tool's not here right now, so we'll do this when we assemble it. I got one of these hubs that I've taken a 350 governor cap clip and put on here and made a handle out of it. That's what I use to set my drums down in. We need to put the sprag on here anyway. I don't normally take these off either. This is how it goes on there. Got these little angles to it. Go this way. You would think that people could not assemble this incorrectly, but believe it or not, I've seen it done. Make sure it sits all the way down. Our race is going to go with the ID up and turn clockwise, counterclockwise. Got these little tips right here. Short end of the taper up. Keep your opening of your snap ring away from the opening. Alright. We are at a standstill. Alright, 400. We got a retainer that goes in here. And whoever had this before staked it in place, and that's fine. You can do that. And go ahead and put our retainer in. I almost forgot. I don't normally take all this out. Normally it's only taken out a boost sleeve to check it. Let's get this back down in there. There it goes. Now it wants to go all on its lonesome instead of having some pressure on it. Alright, we got our pressure regulator valve. This little seat sits on top with the little legs facing up. Spring sits on top of that. And put a little grease on our valve and it'll help hold it in the sleeve. And you'll notice that there's a taper to the snap ring on the tips of it. We want the short end of the taper up. A lot of your books will say the flat end up. Let's see, don't think my valve's quite all the way in there. Well, I guess it is. It's just a lot of pressure against it. Trying to do this on camera can be difficult sometimes. Trying to get it to where you can see it. Alright, being most difficult. This pump's going to keep trying to flip out on me because I ain't got nothing to push against. Dang it. I may have to take this over and put this somewhere where I can secure it and have something to push against. Here we go. Now make damn sure that snap ring's all the way up into that groove. And on our pump gears here, we have a dot and a dot. Those face down, the recess faces down. There's also a dot over here. Just make sure that this recess faces down. I already pressed my new bushings in, and my seal, I put seal 3M weather strip adhesive around my seal. We have our feed port here. It's going to line up. Then I use 2 modulator valves that have been cut off to make for lineup tools. I'm going to stick one in there and one over here. Let me go get my bolts. Oh, he's still got plastic rings. Well, one of them is anyway. Okay, we got one bolt that is 1" 953. 2 bolts that are 1" 677. Make sure this is the same. And then we got 2 bolts that are 1" 197. come out of there. And then we need our sealing rings. Make sure I get the right ones. And these are hook and loop. And sometimes when you have the Teflon rings, these metal rings don't fit properly, and if that's the case, you take your file, get up in the groove and kind of work the burr off of there, and then just get it to where these rings spin around nice and free like that. Selected washer. Let's see what it comes out to when we get there. And then our pump O-ring, and there is a gasket that goes on these. Alright, we're waiting on hard parts for the tranny, so I guess we'll go on to the valve body. Okay, something else I forgot to talk about is this bushing that's in the back of the case. The bushing likes to walk out, and this is the I don't have the factory bushing. Apparently they didn't send it in the kit. Anyhow, usually put the no-walk case bushing in there. It's one thing that you can do. When you do that, sometimes when you put this race in there, which I'm gonna have to flip this over if I use this, make sure that this fits on there properly, but make sure your tangs fit down in the slots of the case properly after you put this in. Sometimes it doesn't, and you'll have to go in here and grind some of this. This is selective. Another thing that you can do is you can put a C6 case bushing in there and leave it raised up and put a 350 pump bearing in the back there. It helps keep this washer. You're going to eliminate this washer. It's a much better setup than that washer. If you're going to do a racing transmission, that's what I would do. Something I just thought about, and I've never tried it before, is that this fits down inside of here just perfectly, but this needs to be flush with the height of that bearing, because it's going to sit on the back here. The one thing I was wondering is if you could cut a recess in there to allow for this and cause that to sit the way it needs to. Somebody try that out and let me know how it works. And it's just a thought, because even once you tighten this down, this bearing's still going to spin like it needs to, but you're going to need it to sit down inside of that output shaft so that it's not running on top of here, it's running on the top of this bearing. So somebody give that a try and let me know how it works. The factory setup uses a 4-tab brass washer back here. Then on the back of your ring gear, you're going to have a 3 bearing setup, and it looks like that, that, and that, and the little lip's going to fit up inside there. It's going to sit just like so. Then on the back here, you got this race, this bearing, and this has a little lip. It's going to face down. Then our planetary is going to fit on top of that. There we go. And our snap ring and go up in the bottom of that. Alright, early ones had 4 tabs in here, and we would take a brass washer. Later ones took a plastic 4-tab washer, and then even later than that took a 2-tab that only have 2 holes. Our silencer ring goes on the outside here. You may have to put this up inside of the other planet, otherwise you just squeeze it down and then drop it down onto there. The beveled side of the gear is going to face in, but I also want to take the feed hole and line it up with the slot in the gear. Alright, and our planetary goes on top of that. It's usually easier if you got this standing up. Might even been easier to leave the sun gear out and do that after. Alright, we're binding up. So let me get this sitting in there, and then I'll be back. Alright. And our sprag goes in with the little angles facing that way. And you would think it can't be done wrong, but trust me, I've seen it. And they sent me a 4L80 planet. So that changes everything. And let me go get my planetary straightened out, or I'm gonna have to change sprags. So let me get that straightened out and then I'll be back. Okay, so we got the right planet now. Put our sprag in with the angles going this way. We have our bearing and race going to sit on top. On the back here we have this race. Down inside there. And I have this race with the lip. It's going to sit in the back right here. Alright. And this is the way I do it. I get a pair of vice grips like this. Put that on there. And then we're going to line up our feed ports with our pliers. And then we're going to set that down in there. If you'll look on your planetary here, there's an angle here and an angle here. I'll show you where we're going to line that up in the case. Alright, I got to change camera angles, and we'll be back for that. Alright, set the end play of this planetary up and down movement. Take that silencer ring out first. It makes it easier, it slides easier. But you want this up and down movement of this planetary right here to be between 8 and 15 thousandths. And I got the silencer ring back in there right now, so it's a little stiffer to move it up and down. But mine's sitting right at 8 right now. And it was much more. These shims that come in the Sonnax Pure Cure kit for the 4R100 E40D for the planetaries work great as a shim, and they were 9 thousandths, so I was sitting at 17 before, just a bit much. You want to try to be between 8 and 15, and they say 10 is a sweet spot, so I'm at 8, and I'm not going to get any different than that without doing a whole bunch of work that I can't do right now. So 8's fine. 8's where I'm going to leave it, and there's your shim to work for that. Alright, so place your direct drum on your planetary set. Take your forward clutch hub, put your washer on it, put it down on here. You're going to check the up and down play. You want between 8 and 15 thousandths. I'm sitting at 15 right now, so I don't think I'm going to be able to get it any closer without being too tight. So they make washers that you can put in here and take that clearance up, or you're going to have to make your own shim. Alright, sometimes trying to remember all the things that you used to know and had right there at the top of your memory, sometimes you forget until you start doing it, and then it all starts coming back to you. One of the things that you can do, if you want to put a shift kit in one of these things, you can. Personally, I would just do my own shift kit. You can achieve the same results. If you want a firm 2-3 shift, you can take this accumulator spring out of here, and when you take the spring out, you don't really need to put the E-clip back in, but put your accumulator back in. You can use a 5/16 18 tap, run down in here and get a set screw and put a set screw in it, or you can get a cut plug and cut plug it, or you can cut your own bolt and just slide it and use a screwdriver, Loctite that in there. That's one thing you can do for that. If you want to change also your third shift fill, this is the hole you drill. Try to stay conservative with it, don't get too radical. Some of these say that you can go to 140 thousandths. I don't know that I would go that high. You can always go bigger, but once you drill it, you can't go back. Second gear is this hole down here. Here again, 125 is about as far as I would go. Somebody's already put a shift kit in this thing, so it's got a different plate. This was a plate that I found to prevent your torque converter from ballooning, or help. It doesn't always get rid of it totally, but if you're going to use the stock pressure regulator spring, you can use the tap again to 5/16 18 tap. Fits right in there. I would suggest that you get brass set screws. Everybody, or so far, haven't been able to find any brass ones, so I got these steel ones, and they were super hard, so I had a hard time drilling it. But if you're gonna use the stock spring, you can go to about 140 thousandths on the orifice that you need to drill through the center of this thing. If you got a aftermarket spring, which this one does, I would stay around 125. There's a lot more to that, but that, as a general rule, will get you, like this thing is just a stock car or a stock vehicle, so I should be fine where I'm at. It helps prevent that front loading on your crank bearing, helps keep them from wiping out, especially when you start elevating the line pressure. Let's see, what else are we needing to talk about? On the direct drum, if you're gonna dual feed your drum, you can leave the inner O-ring or lip seal out that's on the drum itself. Once you leave that out, you're going to need to block this hole right here. You can either block it here, or you can block it in the case. You just put a cut plug in the feed hole. One of the mods that I do, I don't normally dual feed these. Oh, also if you're dual feeding this, you need to leave this sealing ring out right here. You can also use the 4L80 solid rings on here if you want to. A lot of people that build race transmissions, that's what they do. One thing that I do on my 400s and my 4L80s is once I get this bolt in here, I get cut plugs that are come in other GM transmissions. I'll get you the part number for that, and I put them in the case, and it helps seal this off. That way, if this bolt ever breaks or it's not tight enough, especially on a 4L80, it's very easy to not get this bolt tight enough on a 4L80. 400 is a different story. It's easy to break this bolt or split it, but putting those seals in there helps in case it's either not tight enough or this breaks. And it won't prevent it from burning your tranny up, but it won't do it near as badly or quickly with these seals in there. On your linkage here, these holes, make sure that they're not wallered out. Some of these, especially like on Cadillacs, they were much wider, and they took a plastic insert in here. Trying to find those plastic inserts anymore can be fun. If you can't find those, just swap it over to this style. Make sure that your angle in here is the same though. And let's see, I don't know, I guess I said make sure, try to get that in brass. It's a lot easier to drill. I guess we can put the planets together, and then we are ready to put this into the case. So let me get the planetary stuff over here. Alright, now this is the next hardest part, especially if you're putting a metal ring on here. This has a Teflon one on here. It's already sized. I'm not going to cut it off. It's going to make this so much easier. Probably going to take 2 people. The E-clip's going to slide on this tip right here, and trying to get this compressed enough with one person and put that clip in can be a lot of fun. So we'll see how it goes. Really need a different pair of pliers for this part of it. You little bastard. Alright, there we go. Alright. Now our manual valve. And we are done with the valve body. Okay, depending on what you want to do here is what you're gonna put in the back. I'm just gonna put a no-walk case bushing. And on my no-walk case bushings, I go ahead and I still put some green Loctite on there. Go ahead and get the excess off of there. Okay, our selective washer, and make sure that it's going to sit flat and around our bushing there, and in the three tangs and the spots that they go in right there. Some of these cases take this fretting snap ring. It's like 43 thousandths. The early models did not take it. It's 45 thousandths. And like I said, the early ones didn't take it. I know I have a 68 model in here right now that does not have it. This is a 78. I think starting in 70 is when they started putting that this fretting snap ring in here. Put the opening over here, away from over here. And did they ever bring me my band? Let me go see if I can find my band. Okay. I still have not brought me my band, so I'm at a standstill. Alright, we ended up with a problem on this. And nobody had the grooved line band that comes with the 400. All they had, this is 400 and early 4L80. This is later 4L80 where it's got the smooth lining. It takes a smooth carrier, and let's see if we can get this on camera. I don't know how well you can make that out. So you can see how this is not even. This takes the groove band. The groove band can go on anything. The smooth band has to go on a smooth drum or it'll chew it to pieces. So we got our planet on here. We got our, make sure our washers are where it belongs. Our two angled go right here, right here. We got our fretting snap ring in there. Got our adjustable shim down there. And make sure our dills line up. And then when it's lined up, our feed port's going to line up right there. Let's see if we can do this with the camera sitting there. See if I can keep from bumping into it. It helps if I put the band in. Oh, shoot. The camera is right in the way. Alright, we got our lugs going to go up on our little anchors right there. I don't never take that fretting snap ring out of there. I always just leave it in there. I know other people take it out. There's no need to take it out. Alright, I almost dropped the planet. My pliers jumped off. Let's see if we can do this with the camera in a way. Try to keep my pliers from coming off of there. Oh, dang it. Alright. My planet dropped. So I'm going to have to move this camera. Alright, got my end play set. Put the beveled snap ring bevel up, opening at the 3 o'clock. If you have a cushion plate, you're going to put the cushion plate down first. If it has a notch, put that at 6 o'clock. There are different thickness steels, and you can swap out certain things to get your clearances to come out right. This one here is a thicker than normal snap ring. You can use it, but you're going to have to compensate for it. Just make all your clearances come out right. As long as they do, it doesn't really matter what you use in here. Alright. Put our kick down band in. Put our direct drum. If it doesn't want to drop, you can take some air and shoot through the port. And then once it's down, the drum will no longer pop up. Alright, pull our tool out. Put our pressure plate in. Make sure the snap ring's all the way in. Put our forward drum in. Make sure our washer's still on the back side there. Once it's all the way down, you stick your finger in here and there will be no gap between the two drums. Put our gasket down, and I did forget to check the clearance already. I wanted to have that all ready to go, but I do got to check my clearance here. Alright, we're going to line up our feed ports right there. Come on, baby. Drop. Alright, we're going to put a couple bolts in and make sure that everything's okay, and then we'll put the washers on. Just heard a ring. I think I cracked a ring. This tranny here has been nothing but a pain. Not a single clearance has come out correctly. Alright, I'm going to get this pump. The camera's right in my way. Get this pump in, and then I'll be back. Here, there's a washer that goes underneath each pump bolt. Okay. We'll go ahead and talk about this until the it shows up. But go ahead and line up your rear band in the slot, and you can take your pin and you can put a bolt in here. You can use a pry bar to push this down, and it's going to be pretty difficult for you to see, but this shoulder that's on this band right here should be sticking up past. This is just a rough adjustment here, but it should be sticking up past this down here by about 1/8 of an inch, pretty close to it. If it's not sticking up past that shoulder right there at all, this pin is way too short. But you can kind of guesstimate about what it's going to be by that and get it sort of close. And once you get it, make you a tool out of the governor cover, and you can put this on here and check your clearance. You want a 60 to 125 thousandths travel right here, and try to go towards the lower end, you know, somewhere around 70, 80. And mine's off like everything else in this tranny. Everything was off on this. I have never had this much trouble with everything. Every clearance in this transmission has been wrong. So I ordered the pin. They said they had it. It did not show up. Trying to get the parts people to answer me, and they won't answer me. So I have no idea when my pin's going to show up. So once it does, we'll continue on with this transmission. Alright, we got our servo sitting in there, our gasket and our housing, 6 1/2-inch bolts. I'm going to pull this down pretty evenly. It is possible to break the case tightening this thing down. Alright, we want to make sure that we are still turning both directions and make sure that band is not applied. Spring, retainer, cap, sealing ring. There's a couple different versions of this. I'll have that on the Patreon side, and depending on what piston you have in your valve body as to what you're going to use as far as apply pin goes and that setup. Alright. Alright, this thing here you don't really want to put an impact on it. It's much more fragile than the 4L80. That 4L80 one, it's really hard to break it. This one is really easy to break it. You want to replace it if you can at all find one. Alright, something that I do is these seals that come for 200, 204, 325, 325 4L. A whole bunch of trannies that these come in. I'll get you the part number on the Patreon side. Just put these down into there on each side, and they make a tool to put those in depending on what tranny you have. This one that I use is for the 125. It doesn't matter, you don't even really need the tool. You're just gonna tap it in until it stops. That helps seal that center support up. Something that was on this transmission was this little, they recessed this hole right here and they put a set screw. They use this bolt right here. It's an inch 76 thousandths overall length. See if it's the same threads. No, it looks like it's metric. So let me go get the thread count on this. We got 6 check balls. If it's a later model, 87 I believe is when they came out with the other ball. It would be right in here, right in this area somewhere. And let's see, do I got this right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Alright, let me find out what these threads are. Okay, it was not metric, it's a 1/4 20. This is going to keep the center support from turning and help keep that bolt from breaking. Alright, there's 2 different plates and 2 different gaskets for the bottom. The bottom has this extra here, and see how that is open right there? This is the wrong gasket. Alright, now you can see how it's right now. This is an aftermarket plate, so it's not going to look the same as what you're going to have, more than likely. And depending on what kind of kickdown solenoid that you have down here is whether you take this gasket or not. This is for the, and it actually goes this way. This is for the old style. It was a big aluminum looking thing. The later one has this rubber gasket in it. You don't need that. Don't need that gasket on there. You need one of the 7/16 bolts. And one of the 1/2-inch bolts. That'll line everything up. And we can tighten this plate down, or you can just leave it all loose until you get all the bolts started, and then tighten them all down. Some of these are 3/8, some are 7/16. This is our gasket. It goes on here. It's the same for either style plate, so don't worry about that. You shove that through there so it stays out of the way. We can put a couple line-up bolts if we want to keep that gasket from moving. So it helps if I turn it over the right way. Alright, we need our tubes for the back of the valve body. And my line-up bolts are not right threads, but they will get me what I need to do. Seven sixteenths here, here, and here. Okay, this connector over here, even if you change this O-ring, put some silicone on it. And some good grade of silicone, not that cheap stuff. Some ultra black. This is what I use. And then there's a line-up tab for this to go in. And we hook our kick down switch into that. Now the deal out, a lot of people is talking about this plug here. 2-wire plug is for the variable pitch. There are some others that have the 2 plugs, so that does not mean it's a variable pitch. On your tube up here that goes in here, on the case side, on the plastic ones it says which side is which. On the metal one, or early one, it will not say. You're going to have to pay attention to how it came out of there. Loop that up. I put double O-rings on there. Now they do make a brass filter for this thing. If I was building a race transmission, I would probably put a brass one on it. There's a deep pan and there's a shallow pan. The shallow pan uses this bolt. The deep pan is a longer bolt, and there's a spacer that goes between the filter and the valve body here, and it would keep it sitting up like that. Alright, 1/2-inch bolts on the pan. There are metric and American, so be mindful of that. On your lever seal, you can either pull the pin out and the bolt and pull the whole linkage out and change it, or they do make a seal tool that the tool trucks usually have, and you can replace it that way. Okay. Lever seal tool. I don't know if we're going to be able to get a good view of that or not. lever seal goes in this side. You're going to want to get up around these ridges here with the little pocket screwdriver and get this started on there. Otherwise you will cut it. Installation tool. I think I may have already talked about it, but you want to make sure that if what style you have. The Cadillac one, these holes were real big and it had plastic inserts. You can swap it over, make sure that this is lined up properly. This one happens to be metric, so it's 15. The other ones, Americans, would be 9/16. Okay, as far as the governor goes, I gotta change up my gear. There's a pin that you gotta drive out. And it's going to come with a new pin. It also comes with these here to change if you want to. I do not do that. Most you're going to do is change springs on here, unless you're going to get really radical, and then I would suggest that you get the who makes that kit? I believe it's Sonnax. Sonnax makes a kit that has different weights and different springs and everything. Might have been Superior. It's one of them too, but you can grind these off, and then they have a pin that has little E-clips that go on here. You can try to smash these down if you want. I have tried it. They don't seem to want to stay in there very well. So I just I've never needed to get real radical. The only time I need to do that is when I build a race transmission, and it's not very often. So, drive your gear all the way down. In fact, I may change camera angles just so we can get that. And let me change that, and we'll be back. We'll do the video on this. All right, get you a punch that fits in there. This one I believe is from Mac Tools, SLP 53A. They do make a stand that you can use to do this with, but I've never bought it. I just do it by hand. Drive your pin out, pull your gear off. This will also allow you to take your valve out and make sure it's nice and free. You do got some debris up in there, so I'm going to go clean this out and get this nice and free. Okay. You want your valve to, when you move these weights, you want it to freely move on its own. I need to do just a little bit more work on that. Alright. Take our gear, drive that all the way down. Make sure it's all the way flush. And we're going to take a drill bit. I think it was 164 thousandths. I don't know where I got that. 124 thousandths. and we're going to drill straight. Alright, so you drill it straight all the way through, and you're going to take your roll pin, and that one fits way too loose. Alright, that one's going to fit. And I'm going to have to take this over there and assemble this, because I'm going to need an angle. I don't know if you can see that or not. You don't want to be hitting on your gear because it'll snap it off. The hard part is holding this all together, because what you're going to want to do is drive this roll pin to where it's evenly spaced, where it's not sticking out either side, and then we're going to stake it in place like they did there. I guess I should have made sure they did give me a 400. Just a tad bit more. Alright, I don't know how well that's going to show up, but we're pretty even on both sides. And I just take my bushing tool and I stake it in place. Alright, make sure our gear's not loose. Make sure we're good. Make sure our gear still moves. Alright, we're good to go. Now, there's a gasket that goes on our cover. Once we get the governor in there, we're going to look up in the tail housing where the governor is, and we're going to see how much this is traveling back and forth. If it's too much, we're going to ding this cover in just a little bit. If it's not enough, then we're going to knock it back out. But we don't want very much travel. You do want some, but you don't want this thing, you know, moving like that. Just a little bit back and forth. We'll be good. Alright, the other thing to talk about, I don't know if I already did it. It's been so dang long since this thing's been sitting around here. So there's an O-ring that goes on here. There's two washers that go on here. The modulator that is on here is just the same as the 350 and everything. There is a different valve for this housing. This is the Chevy valve, and it just comes up in the back of here. This is the bracket that holds it on. The feet sit in just like that, and the bolt holds that in. On this one here, we have a notch cut out right there, and this bracket sits on there just like so, and our bolt holds it in. Alright, since we have this style valve comes up in here, this little special piece sits in the back of our modulator just like so, and you're going to have to make sure that when you get this down in there, that it goes in the right way. There's a little roller down inside there. I need to make sure it goes around that. Alright, then once it's in there, there's an O-ring on that also. Here's our hold down plate, 3/8 that comes in from this side. But we're going to want to make sure that our valve, that little stem, goes up inside that valve. So put that on there just like that, then shove this all up into the case so you make sure that you got it, and then tighten it down. And I believe that's it for this one. We got the gasket goes on the tail, but they left the housing on the transfer case, so they got that out there. There is a O-ring style filler tube, and then there is the boot style. Now, I think that is it for this transmission. Other than that, we're good to go.